Imagine waking up every morning believing you are free. Free to choose what to buy, what to wear, what to eat, and even what to think. But what if I told you that this illusion of freedom is the most sophisticated form of control ever created by humankind? That the system we live in has evolved beyond visible chains, replacing them with psychological ones, invisible, seductive, and nearly impossible to resist. Today we will uncover the hidden architecture behind modern consumerism, how it has transformed from a simple economic model into a subtle yet perfected form of slavery. Stay with me until the end, because the last revelation we'll discuss might completely change the way you see yourself, your choices, and the world around you. Before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your interaction not only supports the work, but helps awaken others to the truths we're about to explore. I promise that what you'll learn in this video may transform the way you understand freedom itself. Let's begin by asking a simple but unsettling question. If we are all supposedly free, why do so many of us live trapped in cycles of anxiety, debt, dissatisfaction, and endless desire? Why do we keep consuming things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't even know? The truth is, modern consumerism is not just about buying products. It's about shaping identities. It's about defining your worth, your happiness, and even your sense of belonging through what you consume. The psychologist Erich Fromm, in his profound work, To Have or to Be, warned that modern man has replaced being with having. We no longer ask, who am I? But rather, what do I own? This subtle shift marks the psychological foundation of the new slavery, one in which we willingly participate. Consider this. Advertising has become one of the most powerful psychological tools ever invented. It doesn't just sell you objects, it sells you meaning, purpose, and even emotion. You don't buy a car, you buy status. You don't buy clothes, you buy identity. You don't buy technology, you buy the illusion of progress. Corporations have mastered the art of associating products with the most intimate aspects of human psychology: love, success, beauty, and belonging. They study us, track us, and predict us with an accuracy that rivals any totalitarian system of the past. The philosopher Michel Foucault once said, "Where there is power, there is resistance." Yet the genius of consumerism lies in eliminating the need for resistance altogether, because we want our chains. We desire them. Social media has become the digital temple of this new faith. Every scroll, every like, every purchase fuels an algorithm designed to keep you hooked, comparing your life to others, and constantly seeking the next dopamine hit. We are no longer the consumers. We have become the product. Our attention is the currency, our emotions the commodity, and our data the raw material of this new economic empire. Think for a moment about how society defines success today. It's measured not by wisdom, virtue, or inner peace, but by possessions, aesthetics, and image. The modern individual is programmed to believe that happiness lies just one purchase away: a new phone, a bigger car, a better body, a luxury brand, always something outside of oneself. This endless pursuit creates the perfect consumer, one who is perpetually dissatisfied and always seeking external validation. The great irony is that while ancient forms of slavery relied on force, modern slavery operates through persuasion. We are not chained to walls, we are chained to desires. We are not whipped by masters, we are whipped by our own insecurities. This system doesn't demand obedience, it cultivates dependence. And because we believe we are free, we never question the invisible mechanisms that manipulate us. So ask yourself, how many of your choices are truly your own? How much of your personality is an authentic expression, and how much is the result of cultural programming? When you decide what to buy, what to wear, or even what to dream of, are you expressing freedom, or following a carefully designed script written by marketers, psychologists, and corporations who know your mind better than you do? As philosopher Herbert Marcuse wrote in One-Dimensional Man, modern society has achieved something unprecedented. It has made people love their servitude. The system doesn't need to suppress you. It needs only to entertain you, distract you, and convince you that consumption equals happiness. The result is a society that confuses comfort with freedom and pleasure with meaning. And here lies the silent tragedy of our age. We have mistaken material abundance for spiritual fulfillment. surrounded by infinite options, we have forgotten the essence of choice itself. We live in a world where you can buy everything, except the sense of purpose that no product can provide. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how this invisible system was designed, how the industries of psychology, marketing, and technology work together to perfect this modern form of enslavement, and what it truly means to break free from it. If the first step to control is illusion, the second is conditioning. To understand how modern consumerism became such a powerful system of psychological domination, we must look at its origins, not in the marketplace, but in the mind. The story begins in the early 20th century with a man named Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud. Bernays understood something that would change the world forever. If you could tap into people's unconscious desires, you could make them do almost anything, willingly. He realized that humans don't buy products for logical reasons, but for emotional ones. They buy symbols, not objects, meaning, not necessity. Using Freud's theories about the unconscious, Bernays pioneered the field of public relations. But in reality, it was the birth of mass psychological manipulation. He once said, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society." And that manipulation became the beating heart of modern consumerism. Think about how profound that is. Instead of selling products based on their usefulness, companies began to sell identities. A cigarette wasn't just tobacco, it was independence. A car wasn't just transportation, it was masculinity or prestige. Every object became a mirror reflecting who we wanted to be. By connecting consumption to the deepest layers of our psychology, our fears, insecurities, and desires, corporations didn't just enter the market, they entered our minds. Over time, this strategy evolved with the rise of technology. Today, algorithms have replaced advertisers. Machine learning systems analyze every click, every pause, every micro-expression to understand you, not as a human being, but as a predictable pattern of behavior. The system doesn't just know what you like. It knows what you will like tomorrow. It anticipates your needs, shapes your preferences, and builds a world around you where every suggestion feels personal and natural. But in truth, it is engineered to keep you trapped in the cycle of consumption, forever chasing fulfillment through the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next digital validation. We have entered an era where data is more valuable than gold, and attention is the most precious currency. The modern human being has become the raw material for the machine of consumer capitalism. Every post, every search, every online impulse contributes to the vast machinery that studies, predicts, and profits from your behavior. As the philosopher Byung-Chul Han warns in The Burnout Society, this constant self-optimization, the pressure to be productive, desirable, and relevant, turns freedom into a form of self-exploitation. We are no longer forced by external masters. We willingly enslave ourselves to the rhythm of the system, believing it to be progress. But what makes this system so efficient is not just how it manipulates our desires, it's how it shapes our identities. Modern marketing doesn't simply ask you to buy something, it invites you to become someone. You're not just a consumer, you are a lifestyle. Every brand becomes a tribe, every product a statement of self. From luxury logos to social media aesthetics, we are conditioned to express individuality through conformity. We choose between products that are all designed by the same forces, believing that this illusion of choice represents freedom. And yet deep down, there is a growing emptiness, a silent recognition that none of these things bring lasting fulfillment. The momentary excitement of acquisition fades quickly, replaced by a void that demands to be filled again. This is not a flaw in the system, it is its design. The goal is not satisfaction but perpetual desire. A satisfied consumer is a dangerous one because they stop consuming. This is why everything today is designed for obsolescence. Not only our devices, but our attention spans, our relationships, even our sense of self. The moment something loses its novelty, it loses its value. We are constantly pushed toward the next version, the next trend, the next escape. And in that restless motion, we forget how to be still, how to simply exist without needing to acquire or display. Modern consumerism has transformed society into what Guy Debord called the spectacle, a world where the appearance of life replaces life itself. We no longer live experiences, we perform them. We travel not to see the world, but to prove that we've seen it. We don't enjoy moments, we document them. Every action becomes content, every relationship a transaction of visibility. The marketplace has swallowed the sacred, the intimate, the human. Ask yourself, when was the last time you wanted something and truly reflected on why? When was the last time you questioned whether that desire was born from within you or implanted by the constant hum of advertisements, influences, and social validation? The great philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Yet how can we claim mastery when our desires are engineered, our thoughts manipulated, and our time sold to the highest bidder? We have mistaken the abundance of choice for the essence of freedom, not realizing that 1,000 options can still lead to the same cage, as long as they all lead to consumption. But there is hope. Recognizing the illusion is the first act of rebellion. In the next part, we will explore how to break this psychological conditioning, how to reclaim the lost art of self-awareness, and how to rediscover what it truly means to be free in a world built to keep you consuming. Freedom begins with awareness, but awareness alone is not enough. Once you see the invisible cage, the next challenge is learning how to walk out of it. Escaping modern consumerism is not about rejecting the material world. It's about reclaiming your relationship with it. It's about remembering that you are the master, not the merchandise. To understand how to break free, we must first understand the mechanisms that keep us bound. Consumerism doesn't survive through force. It thrives through distraction. The system depends on your attention, because attention is the gateway to desire. The more distracted you are, the more easily you can be controlled. Every notification, every advertisement, every algorithmic suggestion is designed to fragment your focus. When your attention is divided, you lose the ability to think critically. You begin to react instead of reflect. You move from conscious choice to conditioned response. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once warned that the press, the theater, the cafe, all these things are inventions for preventing the individual from being alone with himself. In the digital age, this statement has never been more true. We have built a world that fears silence. We fill every gap with noise, music, videos, scrolling, consumption, anything to avoid facing the emptiness within. Yet it is precisely in that emptiness that freedom begins. Because when you are not being constantly programmed by external stimuli, you can finally hear the subtle voice of your own mind. But the modern world has made solitude almost taboo. If you are not constantly connected, you are considered unproductive, irrelevant, or antisocial. The system thrives on this dependency, because a mind that cannot be alone is a mind that cannot think freely. The greatest rebellion in a consumerist society is to reclaim your inner stillness, to sit with your own thoughts without needing to escape through stimulation or purchase. Psychologists like Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, understood that the deepest human drive is not pleasure or power, but purpose. When life lacks meaning, consumption becomes a substitute. We seek to fill the spiritual void with material abundance, but it never works, because meaning cannot be bought. It must be discovered, and that discovery requires presence, reflection, and courage. As Frankl said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. The entire machinery of consumerism depends on this principle. It keeps you entertained, overstimulated, and perpetually unsatisfied, so you never pause long enough to question why. Breaking the cycle begins with reclaiming control over your desires. This doesn't mean rejecting beauty, comfort, or technology. It means using them consciously rather than being used by them. The Stoic philosophers taught that freedom is not the absence of desires, but the mastery of them. Epictetus reminded us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the same way, it's not the existence of consumer goods that enslaves us, it's our unconscious attachment to them. When you start observing your desires instead of obeying them, you regain power. Ask yourself, when I feel the urge to buy, what am I really seeking? Comfort, validation, escape. Every purchase carries an emotion beneath it. The next time you reach for your phone to browse, pause, breathe, observe. You may discover that what you truly crave is not the object itself, but a feeling, belonging, joy, peace, security, something that no object can permanently provide. That awareness turns consumption from compulsion into choice. Another path toward freedom lies in redefining value. In a consumerist world, value is determined by price, popularity, and appearance. But in a conscious life, value is determined by meaning, quality, and alignment. This shift is revolutionary because it removes the system's power to define your worth. The less you depend on external approval, the less control the market has over your identity. True wealth is not how much you own, but how little you need to feel complete. Philosopher Alan Watts once said that modern man is like a person who eats because he is afraid of being hungry. This perfectly describes the psychology of consumerism, a desperate attempt to fill an imagined lack. The antidote is not more consumption, but deeper connection. Connection to yourself, to others, and to life itself. When you cultivate presence, gratitude, and self-awareness, the endless craving loses its hold. You begin to see that joy doesn't come from acquisition, but from appreciation. There is also a collective dimension to this awakening. The moment individuals begin to act consciously, the system trembles. Because consumerism relies on conformity, every act of conscious simplicity becomes an act of rebellion. When people choose authenticity over image, relationships over transactions, and purpose over profit, they disrupt the very engine that fuels modern slavery. The French philosopher Jean Baudrillard wrote that the consumer society needs its objects to be consumed and forgotten. But what happens when we refuse to forget? When we cherish instead of discard, repair instead of replace, create instead of consume? We begin to restore balance to a culture that has mistaken excess for progress. In the next part, we will uncover the most powerful truth of all, the final and most important revelation, that true freedom is not found outside of the system, but within the transformation of your own consciousness. Because once the mind is free, no system can enslave it. The final and most profound truth is this: freedom is not something that can be given or taken. It is a state of consciousness. No law, no economy, no system can truly enslave a mind that has awakened to its own power. The most perfected form of slavery is the one that makes you forget you were ever free. And the most powerful act of liberation is remembering that you always were. Modern consumerism thrives because it has mastered the art of illusion. It convinces us that freedom means access, that happiness means accumulation, that progress means productivity. But freedom is not the ability to choose between products. It is the ability to choose who you become. The system may own your data, your habits, and your time, but it cannot own your awareness unless you surrender it. Philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, yet that is exactly what our world rewards." The better you adapt to consumerism, the more successful you appear. You are praised for your efficiency, admired for your possessions, envied for your image. But beneath the surface lies a quiet emptiness, the soul's recognition that something essential has been lost. That loss is the silence of being, drowned out by the noise of having. To truly awaken, one must learn to see beyond the glittering surface. Every advertisement, every algorithm, every promise of happiness has a subtext. You are not enough as you are. The moment you believe that lie, you are enslaved. The moment you reject it, you begin to remember your inherent worth. This is the beginning of inner revolution. The moment when you stop seeking validation from a system designed to keep you insecure. Freedom begins the instant you realize that you are not what you own, nor what others think of you, nor the image you project online. You are awareness itself, the silent witness behind all experiences. When you reconnect with that awareness, the entire architecture of manipulation starts to collapse. You no longer chase approval, because you see that fulfillment is not a product. It's a presence. You no longer need to buy happiness because you realize that happiness was never something to buy. It was what remained when the noise stopped. But this awakening is not easy. It requires courage. The courage to question everything you were taught to value, to stand apart from a society that thrives on conformity, and to rediscover simplicity in a world addicted to complexity. It requires the strength to resist the seduction of endless choice and instead choose what is essential. The Stoics called this the art of self-mastery, not the suppression of desire, but the harmony of it. To desire consciously is to be free. Every time you pause before a purchase and ask, "Do I really need this, or am I trying to fill a void?" you are reclaiming a piece of your freedom. Every time you disconnect from the noise and reconnect with silence, you are detoxing from the addiction of distraction. Every time you choose gratitude over greed, authenticity over appearance, presence over performance, You are dismantling the invisible chains that bind humanity. In this age of hyperconnectivity, real rebellion is inner stillness. Real power is presence. Real wealth is peace of mind. You cannot outspend emptiness, but you can outgrow it. Because once you stop chasing, you start seeing. And when you start seeing, you begin to live, not as a consumer, but as a conscious being. The transformation of society begins with the transformation of the individual. Every conscious human being becomes a seed of change. When you no longer define yourself through consumption, you stop feeding the system that thrives on your unconsciousness. You begin to live intentionally, love authentically, and create meaning rather than purchase it. You start contributing to a new paradigm, one not built on manipulation, but on mindfulness, not on profit, but on presence, not on slavery, but on self-awareness. Psychiatrist Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is the essence of our modern struggle. Consumerism has turned collective unconsciousness into a global business. But the awakening of even one person begins to shift the balance, because consciousness is contagious. The more people awaken, the weaker the illusion becomes. Imagine for a moment a world where human beings define success not by what they possess, but by what they understand. A world where technology serves awareness instead of distraction. A world where we use creation as an expression of being, not as compensation for feeling incomplete. That world begins with each of us, here, now, choosing awareness over automation, essence over image, life over lifestyle. So let me ask you this. Are you truly free or just comfortable in your cage? The answer may unsettle you, but it will also liberate you. Because to see the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the beginning of real freedom. Modern consumerism is indeed the perfected form of slavery, not because it controls our bodies, but because it seduces our minds. But remember, seduction only works on those who sleep. The awakened cannot be enslaved. So wake up, reclaim your time, question your desires, create instead of consume, live consciously. Because the moment you choose awareness over addiction, silence over noise, truth over illusion, you become the one thing the system cannot control, a truly free human being. Thanks for